everyone, Alexa Dunn here, and today I am sharing my favorite magical writing hack for fixing pacing in your novel. I've shared this before but kind of buried in other videos, and I thought it deserved its own standalone video. And this is a editing hack, really a writing tool that my agent shared with me a couple of years ago that kind of blew my mind wide open and have completely changed the way, honestly, that now I draft, but it has been most useful in editing. And that is when you have a book that is too long, when you're told that your pacing is dragging, that things aren't happening fast enough, that something just isn't working in the novel. If it's over 100K and you know you have to trim it down, but you feel like every scene and interaction is needed, you can't cut things. This trick is for you. I've been there. So for my first published book, between submission rounds, we knew we had a pacing problem, specifically in Act 1. It was too long getting to the big meeting between the romantic couple, but I felt that every single scene was needed and necessary, every beat, plot and character beat that was on the page. I didn't know what to cut, and I was feeling really panicky. And my agent agreed with me. She didn't feel that we needed to cut any specific scene or chapter interaction. And here is what she told me. She said to focus and narrow in on the literal prose on the page, to look at every sentence, every paragraph, especially paragraphs. Look for long paragraphs, long sentences, anywhere where the reader could trip over something and stop. A really unwieldy long paragraph, a series of long, complicated, descriptive sentences that are repetitive or redundant. And that is where you trim. It's 1,000 little cuts, basically, except you don't die, it gets better. So essentially, it's really looking at your writing on the page. It's looking for places to cut paragraphs down, or even just break them up, inserting, a hard enter so that the reader can go through them more easily. Same thing, by the way, if every single sentence is a new line, that can actually lead to a choppy reading experience, which is a little bit different, but this hack can help you there as well. Essentially, think about reading flow, how a reader literally, their eyes go over all of your words and your sentences and through your paragraphs. So essentially what I did, I looked for places where I was describing things for 3 sentences, a long paragraph, and I found ways to cut it down to 2 sentences in a much shorter paragraph. I looked for any kind of navel-gazing internalization of the character that either was repeated elsewhere or just wasn't necessary to the scene. I had to really think about every single bit in the scene. What were the essential beats of the scene that got the character to the next point? So I cut a lot of navel-gazing. I cut repetitive dialogue. I think this is something really common that we don't realize we do. We have a scene and it just goes on and on. Sometimes you can just cut it so that it's a lot shorter and a lot sweeter. Another aspect of this is looking at where you are starting and leaving your reader. I actually have a whole video on micro cliffhangers, which I will link to down below, but this is another thing, because essentially what my agent said to me was, look for any place where that reader, in this case editors, would have an excuse to stop. So I looked at the way that my chapters were ending. Did it give them a reason to turn the page? So all of these things in concert meant I cut 6,000 words from the first 18,000 words of my book, and I didn't think it was possible, but I did it without sacrificing any of the actual stuff that happened in the books. It was just a ton of tiny little cuts. Cutting long paragraphs with excessive description, navel-gazing, and so on. I didn't have to do any painful editing. Ultimately, it not only improved the pacing, moving up kind of that big meeting of the 2 love interests, but it made the book shorter overall, which is kind of a win-win. Though I did end up adding more to other parts of the book, so it did even out. But that's the whole thing about pacing. Some parts of the book are going to need to be shorter. Other parts of the book are going to need to be more drawn out, and this hack is for when you gotta cut stuff. So you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, you just have to siphon some of the bathwater out. This has ended up helping me on subsequent drafting of books because now when I'm writing, I'm already mindful about my paragraph breaks, for example, how long my sentences are. Am I beating that dead horse into the ground with description? Do I need that navel gazing? So it's made me a better drafter, but also better editor overall, because I know that there is value in making those little edits, cutting the little darlings on the page, because it can make a huge impact in the reading experience. So that is my advice for you if you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you have a pacing problem, things are happening too slowly, readers are telling you they're bored with something, your word count is just too high. Look at the literal prose on the page, the length of your sentences, what's in them, your paragraphs, and how the reader's eye will travel down the page and bump over the words. Let me know it down below in the comments. Have you tried this out? Do you have your own kind of like tips for a pacing edit? And give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and I will make more little bite-sized writing hacks. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and as always, happy writing.